And I'm going to go live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook in conversation with Karenne Ann, who is one of our most fabulous finalists in the Sunshine Coast Art Prize 2022. Hello, Karen. How are you?
Hi, great, thanks.
That's great. So, as usual, we're going to do I'd like to just acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we work, play, and
don't have it going yet.
it said it was. So it's recording.
Okay, sorry.
So just double checking we're going live. We have such a lot of fun with regards to this. Try now, Karen. So I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners that we have on here. I'm quite interested in that it's saying that I do not have permission to live stream. So I've just got someone having a look to see if we're live streaming to Facebook. And once again, we're not. So we're going to tape this. I don't know what happens here and why it does it. So Karen, what we'll do is we'll tape it and then we will put it up tomorrow and we'll ask anybody who's got questions, we'll pass on to you if that's okay. This happened last time as well. We have no idea why it does it. It keeps doing it to us and it makes us very sad. However, because we've got you on the screen, we're going to chat to you anyway. So first and foremost, I'd like to acknowledge the country, the traditional owners of the country that I live, work and play on, the Gubbi Gubbi and the Jinnabara peoples. This land, which is exceptionally gorgeous and fabulous, is still really important to them, both spiritually, economically, emotionally, and physically, and I know they have such a strong connection. I'd like to pay my respects to elders that have passed, and we've had several elders pass recently in the global community of our First Nation, as well as the ones that are currently helping us and leading us, as well as the traditional elders that are coming up, which is wonderful. We've got a really lovely group of exceptional artists and cultural linkers that are coming up through the ranks. So I'd like to welcome Karen, and we're so excited. She's talking to us all the way from Melbourne, not quite sunny Melbourne, I suspect.
Well, it's actually out of Geelong, which is, if you're into football,
even further.
It's right on the tip of the Bellarine Peninsula. So,
I think you said I can't really get further away from us, in fact.
No, it's a lot.
So Karen's amazing. If you get a chance, make sure you go to her website, which is just karenneann.com. So it's KARENNEANN.com. And you'll see the extraordinary, I guess, breadth of her making in the way she tells her stories and what she uses. She's a really extraordinary artist in the many fields that she puts it and dabs in and works with. And she also has an Insta, which is the same as her handle. So she is a multidisciplinary artist whose narratives address themes, feminism, nature, fragility, by documenting historical change, resurrecting memory, and interrogating spaces inhabited by incomplete or damaged or distressed memories. Karen's past work has explored the effects of wrapping, exposing, swaddling, scanning, hiding, modelling, and setting fire to objects. I love your performance piece on the beach. Really beautiful piece that's on your website. And welcome. So thank you so much for chatting to us today.
Yeah, great.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, well, we were very excited. I love your piece, and I love, well, I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. I suspect that is a crown on your head in recognition of the passing of one of the most extraordinary women, I think, in the last sort of decade, like century. She was around for a very long time.
Yeah, she was around for all my life.
And
but also this is in recognition of colonisation, because I think it creates trauma. So that's why, hence it's a good old black crown.
Black crown.
Whipped up, yes.
And it's good because it's made of, and one of the works that you had in the exhibition is actually, and I'll have to mention Heather Horrocks is your mask maker, but the beautiful piece that you have in our exhibition, in the Sunshine Coast Art Prize exhibition, is a mask, and you've done a whole series of mask women. And this one obviously relates, I think, to the plague, a bit of a story about the plague and the doctors who used to wear those amazing masks. But the material that it's woven out of is videotape. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, dead
So-
VHS.
Yeah, so it's interesting because videotape also is those telling of stories in a Western sense. So wearing a black crown and in using the material of the telling of the stories of the Western side is a great analogy. So congratulations, ticks on all the boxes there, I think.
Yeah, well, I think that's Heather. It was her COVID project. So we, yeah.
Oh, well, was it? It was her project. So I wanted
Well,
to
yeah,
mention-
that's where the first mask initiated the Empiricist.
Yeah, so I should mention Heather. She's I think the term is an old craftist. Is it? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, activist and writer who decided to actually enter the field of arts quite late in her lifetime.
Yeah, well, we both really did. I did a diploma of photography when I was 40. So,
really?
So
Wow.
yeah, that's basically when I
Well, I wanted to ask you about that. So I guess this leads us into our questions. So how and when did you first become interested in art?
Well, when I was a student, really. I was studying I did a 2-year diploma of photography, and at that time it was very analog based. So I used a lot of film, and I loved the image making with film and studio practice. So all the images in the mask Effacement series are all done at my little home studio that we set up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Are you the subject? Are you under the mask?
Actually, no, it's the maker that's in the mask.
Oh, okay. So that's Heather under the mask.
Yes, it is.
Ah, okay.
A little bit of a muse because that video on the my website, that's her in that black frock.
Oh, gosh, she is your
Yeah,
subject.
so
And your
we have this
nice collaboration.
very nice collaboration thing that's been going
that's
on
lovely.
for quite a long time, over 20 years really.
Oh, okay. And
Yeah.
were you always so if you've both come to art late, did you just your travels crossed each other constantly in previous art related fields, or?
Actually, no, we shared a studio space in Footscray, sort of.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and that's where we both met there. Yeah.
Right, okay, because I love studios. I missed that when I finished study and I left, the beautiful protected space of the university and went out into the real world with my, clay in one hand and my sculpting tools in the other. It was like I didn't know what to do. And I think the non-availability of studios really made me go, oh, I'll go into art management because there's this really lovely sort of preciousness about the universities where you can talk to people and share ideas and have this surround of really exciting people about everything you talk about and argue and all of that, and then you go into the real world, and if you don't have a good studio you sort of lose, I think, some of that. Well, it was definitely for me. So
Well, it was for Heather and I too, and just that bouncing of ideas and sharing and showing work and getting the critique from other like-minded people.
Yeah,
really
it's a lovely
important
thing, isn't it? Yeah. All right, so I guess that sort of leads a little bit into what is your favorite medium to work and why? Is it film?
Yes, it is. Well, I'm a multidisciplinary artist, but and it's difficult to really put a handle on it, but film and alternative processes are
All right, so when you say alternative processes, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean processes that had the beginning before actually silver gelatin. So I started using cyanotype when I left, after I'd left my diploma, because it was one of the first photography sort of processes using So and it was a woman.
Yes, who what discovered it?
Yeah, by a botanist called Anna Atkins. She used it to take out in the field, so she could get a quick picture, an impression of the plant she was studying. Yeah.
And there's a beautiful set of works on your web with those glass negatives. Really.
Yeah. Daisy Llewellyn. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you also do some like performances. So do you create the idea of the performance, you create the performance, and then you film it, and that becomes the art piece? Is the documentation of the...
Yeah, that was really interesting. That dress that was burnt, it was a metaphor for my marriage that ended. So I made I created two full-size wedding dresses for a show in Footscray Arts Centre when actually Michael Brennan was down. He was the curator down there, so it was for part of a was a worldwide printmaking show.
I think I've got it in your list. Let me see.
Yeah.
When would that have been? Was it 2016?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yep. So it was Women Wept.
No, Women Wept is the Anzac Centenary grant stuff. And this is the work behind me was created for that.
Oh,
the faces. Look, anyway, look.
Anyway.
So I had this gold, it was lined with gold paper, the pattern of this wedding dress. And I thought, you know what, this is perfect. Actually, I did make it for Women Wept, apologies. So it was a crossover because my art practice and my life cross over in lots of ways. So and so having Heather in the Gothic sort of dress and being an anonymous woman, it was the women who'd lost their husbands and the men that came back damaged and so we went and burnt it on the beach.
Yes, it's beautiful.
On Johanna Beach.
Yeah,
which is my favourite beach in the world, Johanna Beach.
Yes. So then you document it, and that becomes the art piece. Yes. Yeah. So you like working in that way, because there's also that wonderful one of wrapped trees, bound trees.
Yeah, that was down at Lake Tyers. This was part of a RAD project on invigorating communities through art. So over a year, I travelled down and camped around the lake at Lake Tyers, and I wrapped the trees and photographed them with film and pinhole cameras.
Pinhole cameras, I saw that. There's something. I know. About that, yeah. And
I did a community engagement project, and we made our own pinhole cameras, and then I placed them around as well.
Yeah.
So that was really good fun, and it was. They had about 40 different artists working on different things, and they called it an art almanac, and they had a group group show in Lake Tyers. So wow. Small town regeneration. I can't remember exactly what the project was called.
Yeah, there was a lot of them that happen around, particularly when there's been some sort of bad occurrence that has happened, like fires or floods or really that sort of stuff. So and it is a wonderful way to re-energize the community and bring them together again when there's been such trauma.
And it also brought the Indigenous people together. So I went to my first personal corroboree. Well, for me, it was an amazing experience. So the Gippsland Aboriginal community, which I've forgotten their name, came together, and we had permission to work on the land. And
oh, that's amazing.
And they've got a whole boat called Float, a floating studio down that artists can apply down there, and that came out of that same huge
nice. Yeah, I'm just looking at your thing. So because you've been sort of regularly showing since about 2008, or were you showing before that?
No, I wasn't, because
So 2008 was sort of when you really started to be very active in the exhibiting space. The work that are behind you, that lovely pieces behind you, but behind you, that's masks of women.
Yes,
and it relates. Does it relate to the death masks that are often taken?
They're death masks of broken women. Called. So I actually own a little kiln, but these were with air dried clay, and then I used a scanner, which I love, as a camera.
Okay.
And so when you have a look up close, there's in and out of focus. There's also a lot of detail that the scanner creates.
So you use different materials. So far we've used sanitite paper, you've used pinhole cameras, you've used scanner, you've used film.
But like I said, it's fun, and I think art should be fun, and also I think it should create a bit of a message. I think artists have not a right, but they're the way that's the way challenge people's perception of what they see around them, and and sometimes in an abstract way, So these cracked women's faces, just
very much so, and I think yours do, like, very much. All the work that I looked at on your website, there's a very strong message about the forgotten voices being able to be heard and things like that. One of my next questions is, what has been the greatest influence on your work or for your work?
Well,
on Anvil.
I think it's that from analog to digital, because I was trained in analog photography and film, and digital was just starting to occur. So scanning was very popular with film, but there were not many digital cameras, and the ones that were around were too expensive to be in a teaching sort of environment. So I think that's been the greatest for me.
I do love the negative though. Like I did some photography as well, and I loved that excitement of creating your own negative, like, you know, producing your negative in the dark room and then producing the print from that. And that's so you can manipulate it, play with it. So, you know, you become your own computer and how you want that to be read. And I do miss that, because I think it's a very different aesthetic to a digital work. I don't know if you agree.
No, I do agree. I still develop my own film, and I scan it myself. So and I have an enlarger in my laundry, which is under the house. But saying that, I haven't actually used it because I've been doing renovations, so it's still sitting there covered. So.
How many toilets and bathrooms that people have converted into dark rooms? Just put some black up and it'll all be fine, and I'll work in a bag when I do my negatives.
That's it. But look, the Effacement project is purely digital. It's been brilliant. I bought a beautiful big lens so I could get right up and personal, and that's what all the images are very, very big, very close up, right in Heather's face.
With your digital, do you end up then stitching images together to create the finished piece? So it's just one big scan that you do? I do a little bit of post-production work, and most of it is I shoot raw files, and so I do something with those. Generally just a tiny bit of tweaking, but I try and shoot in camera. I'm old school like that, so I haven't really got into that stitching lots of different exposures together. I know that's a thing now, but it's not something that you look at. It's not your aesthetic. No. Okay.
No, it's not something I do. I like to get it right, and pretty much the first time. And also a cropping camera, you know, I like that viewfinder, and that's the way with photography you see the world. You know?
Oh, okay.
So
you see the world and then edit it where you think the world might like it better.
Yeah, tiny exposure things, and if there's a bit of rubbish in it, I'll clone it out, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Well, it is good. I mean, I'm really loving the image, and the image we have in the Sunshine Coast Art Prize is such a great shot. I think it's really powerful. The gaze staring at you is just really strong. If people haven't seen it, you can go on our website or come into the gallery and have a look at it. It's a really fabulous piece. Can I ask, what would you describe as the most memorable moment in your career?
Well, right now it's hanging on your wall. Having that first collaborative piece with Heather and I together.
Oh, that's one of the first, is it?
That was the first out of this series.
Nice.
The Empiricist. So yeah, that was. And when I got the phone call from Joe, was it you that you rang me? Was it Joe? Or
it was me.
I was pretty wrapped. It was a miserable day here, and so that
I think he said that as well. It's like, oh, that's just made my day. It's terrible here, and really bad.
Yeah. So I definitely think it's and being on the wall with so many fabulous artists too. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice show, isn't it? It's
I loved it.
We were so on our sort of vernissage where we thank all our sponsors, and if we can get the artists on the floor, we are. Karenne and Heather came up from down south, and we were so shocked when they arrived. It's like, oh, and it was so lovely to have you there. But because it's so much nicer when that, you know, because we go, oh, these works are fabulous, rah, 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 and we try to talk about them. But when we have the artists on the floor, it's always so much better. Did you end up chatting a lot to people about your work on the night?
Yeah, a fair bit. I actually was really interested in other people's stories about their work. So, you know,
it was lucky because we had quite a number of artists. We were really pleased with the amount of artists that turned up because it was such a hoot. It was such a good night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fabulous.
It was hard to get everybody to leave because everyone was having far too good a time. But yes, it was nice. Okay, so was there anything else that was really pivotal that changed your direction, or when you started working in 2008, what changed? What made you go down into the exhibition and displaying of your work?
That's a very interesting question. When I discovered photography, I just decided that was always going to be part of my life. And
when was that? When was that? Can I ask?
That was 97, 98
right,
when I studied. It was when diplomas were a whole 2 years. Now they've dumbed them down to 1 year mostly. So very theory based, but like I say, analog based. So I think when I put an image, a fine art image, into the Australian Institute of Professional Photographers, we all were encouraged as students to put it in. So it was a black and white image that I hand toned with selenium.
Oh, nice.
So so that was my first. They gave me a little prize for that, student
nice.
Prize. So I thought, okay, this is good fun. I can do
this. Is possible. This is what I want to do.
But yeah, as far as the exhibition stuff, it really started in that studio in Footscray.
Right. So that's
yeah.
So egging each other on.
Yeah, well, it was and the collective marine art was called, and we were getting, the place was being gentrified and the studio was closing. So we had a big exhibition of everyone's work in the Footscray Arts Centre, and we got some money off the council to relocate. But just keeping up that generation of work going.
I think art centres like that are just like so pivotal in people's careers. Like, give them places to show, even if it's in group shows. I think group shows are really important for voices that can't get solo shows, and there's not enough spaces for solo shows. So group shows for me are a really lovely way to introduce an artist into an area that they may not have used before or done or talked about, or suddenly arrive on the scene and it's like, oh, where's this artist come from? So for us as curators, it's a wonderful way to see who's out there and what we see. And that's why we like the Sunshine Coast Art Prize, because it's national. So we get to see across what people are talking about across the nation, and that's why we love it so much. So what are you currently working on?
Well, the Effacement projects that we've we're still, Heather and I are still going with that. And
so maybe talk a bit about that one if you can.
Yeah, well, Heather wrote something for me. So look, bear with me while I look down at the notes she wrote.
That's all right.
Pretty much it was a COVID project driven by what was happening in the pandemic down here in Victoria and all over the place. And so it was Effacement developed because Heather's a word lady, and she found that the effacement word, and it has two meanings, but the act, I'll read this out, the act or process of effacing or eliminating something. Especially reduction to insignificance. So we've put a woman behind these masks. So it's and especially the COVID one, which is So this one. So, and the Empiricist is that's the one on the wall. I'll just say.
It is. It's a good one, everybody. Yes.
Yeah. But there's also there's 7 in the series at the moment. So we have the Efface, which is to do with the war, and I've got a shocking thing going on my computer at the moment. I've just knocked
it. No.
Oh, it's all right.
It's gone.
But so I think also the way the community behaved, being masked up, that sort of really resonated with both of us. So these are actually totally ineffectual masks. They've all got holes in them. There's a bit of an irony and joke in some of them, but also it's women in these positions of power. I'll just show you this one that hasn't been out, and so I don't know if you can see it. So it's She the Dragoon. So it's
right. Wow, that's amazing.
So
Does she use the videotapes? I mean, obviously it's a really nice material to manipulate, but is it also looking at those past stories being regenerated in a new form and all of that nice stuff? I think there's something about, she says something like mortal threats are defeated by immortal dead tech treads. Yes. And an old friend is magicked into a lifeless, faceless relic. And I think there's some really nice sort of things that are happening. Like I've seen a couple of like artists reusing those sort of videos. For me, it's because I grew up on videos. So, you know, that tape was a really important thing, both like sound decks, so your music tapes plus your videotapes. If they got pulled out or ripped or shredded, you lost your story. The story became nothing, or your song was completely gone. So this pulling of it out and then knitting it into this new story, or, you know, and then placing it, I think is a really interesting analogy, and also subtext that you're talking about there. I don't know if I'm reading far too much into it, but I imagine.
No, look, as soon as we saw that Empiricist, when I pulled it up on the screen after shooting it, but Heather, we were so excited, but Heather said when I framed her, I started to screaming, saying, "This is it! This is the image!" Because I was trying to photograph it just on a table to document it for her, and I said, "It's just not working. It needs a body in it." Yeah. I said, "You really have to put it on for me." So, and that's where it started.
Well, I think they work. I mean, I've seen artists taken the story that's on the video and then created by stitching and sewing the sort of iconic object or image. So there was like a Mickey Mouse head because it was a Disney tape, but I haven't really seen that taking the tape completely out and reusing it in a different manner and then telling a different story with it. So I really like that sort of play. I think it's really lovely.
Yeah, and look, it's very difficult to photograph, and it's all we're calling it. It's very landscapey when you get up close like that. So, and I did desaturate it a little bit through Photoshop, but if you look closely enough, you can see little bits of the green trees coming through the window on one side, and there's a little bit of that. I didn't see that. It's pretty, but it's there, and it's yeah.
I think it's a wonderful material. Really, really nice. So you're just working on that series. You don't have another sort of
at the moment
thinking. Well, it's pretty endless, isn't it? Really.
It could be. I don't think Heather wants to make masks all her life, but
there's a bit of a sweatshop out the back of the studio. Get in there and make me another mask.
No, we definitely hope to get it out there a bit further. So it's a great opportunity having it in your art prize, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a great piece. So what is the one piece of advice that stuck with you?
Well, it appeals totally to my feminist core that I've had all my life, and it was that girls can do anything. So I typically through my career haven't got into the women-based work really, which is shocking to put that into inverted commas, but I've worked in science, and I've worked in I've been a technician basically for science and in an education in the art department of a TAFE down here in Melbourne. So and it's really, and also as an older woman, I think it was really important for students to see me working with tools and doing technical stuff.
Yeah,
it's always, it is linked a lot to the boys out there, techie stuff,
and a youth culture.
And a youth culture, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm saying that I'm having trouble with my Apple TV at the moment. I need someone younger to come in.
I need a young kid to come and fix it.
No, I know. I just need a new But so yes, keeping up with this digital side of my practice has been really great. Getting back acquainted with Photoshop, because I wasn't, apart from scanning and I wasn't shooting raw files, and so yeah, I'm having fun with all that.
No, that's good. So do you think you'll do more work with the scanning?
Definitely. I'm hoping to get a tax return and I can buy a scanner, because I had all the equipment when I was working and I don't have it now, so I'm building it up.
Building it up as you go along.
My digital lab.
Are you still in your studio? Where do you work from? Is it the studio?
I work from my dining room table, and I've got a big garage, so I've got a little kiln in there, and I do sensitize all my cyanotypes in my laundry that's downstairs. I use
so your whole house is really your studio.
Absolutely, it's fabulous.
Yeah. I think out of my people that I've chatted to with Sunshine Coast Art Prize, most of them have either done it on their kitchen table, done it in their shed, or done it in their laundry and have to remove everything when the activity of their household comes back into play. And it's like, oh gosh, the amazing things artists do to create these amazing works, and it's been on the dining room table. I had an exhibition before SCAP where the artist was working in her bedroom, and every time they wanted to go to bed she had to take it all off the bed and put it on the floor, and then at the beginning of the day, that was her process to start the day. She'd put it all back on the bed. It was like, oh my goodness, that's amazing. We've actually come to a bit of the end of the session, but we would usually have questions from the audience, but because we haven't been able to live stream, we will ask anybody who's got questions to send it through, and we'll try and get them to Karen, and she can no doubt give an answer. I think it's really exciting. I'll be keen to see the next series. So how many have you got in the series now of your masks?
7.
So 7. Do you have an end, do you think, at 10?
We haven't really spoke about that because we've been
too busy.
Yeah, well, I've been finishing renovating my house so I can sell it.
Okay.
So yeah, but
don't get too caught up with doing other stuff. You're a maker. Don't get caught up doing other stuff.
No. I have to do art. It's part of my being now.
Yeah, that's good. Do you have a practice? Like, is it when you're not renovating your house? Do you have a formal practice where you get up at, say, 8 o'clock, you make yourself breakfast, and then you work until lunch, or is it when you have the urge come on you and you work for 10 hours, or is there a process?
Yeah, generally I go swimming in the morning, come home, have coffee, and then I have 2 or 3 hours that I work on with my art practice. That's when
that's very good, dedicated activity.
Well,
what do you do in winter when it's too cold to swim?
Beg your pardon?
What do you do in winter when it's too cold to swim, or do you go to a pool?
Well, I've just joined this group, and you can beep it out, called the Salty Bitches, and they swim no matter any time of the year in the bay. So I've had one swim, but I haven't been brave enough to go in the dead of winter yet.
You just want their shirt. You just want to be able to wear their shirt.
And say it. Great. So, yeah.
All right. Well, it is now after 6:30, and so I will say thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. It's been a joy to chat to you. I'm sorry, we should have actually had Heather beside you, and we could have had a three-way chat, because it would have been really lovely, I think, although this has been fabulous. Hopefully people will come online after when we post it, and they'll send you questions, because I'm sure they'll be really interested. Don't forget to go to Karen's website or Insta. So it's KarenneAnn.com, or her handle is the same. And check out her work. It's quite remarkable how diverse it is, although there is that underpinning, I think, of the story that you're telling in all of the work that you're creating, because there's a really strong message. But they're beautiful. They're visually beautiful. They're really interesting. You want to look into them. I think they're amazing. So once again, thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today. What did you do? Can I just ask, with the Footscray skating, what did you do for that? The Footscray skating show?
Oh, I had
something. Did you do some skating? Did you hang some fire?
Yeah, I scanned this really old skateboard, and I had that on one side, and my son, who's a skater, I had his tattooed back on the other side.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And also, just sorry, because I was so fascinated with your website. What was the service stations? Why did you do the old survey?
That's just an ongoing thing. My road trips around Australia. If I find an abandoned, that's called fossil fuel. I've only put it in a little book that I produced myself. So
Oh, it's beautiful. I have a
yeah.
fascination with old buildings like that. So
yeah.
there's some wonderful shots. All right. Well, thank you so much and have a great rest of the night. And people, don't forget to go online and post your questions. And best of luck. The award is on the awards night is on the 6th. And fingers crossed. So
Thank you,
who
Jo.
knows who's doing it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. And have a good night. Bye.
I will. Bye.